All right, here we are. Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Black on Black Education Podcast. I mean, if you've been here before, you know I'm going to say the same thing I say every single time. Our first question to our guests is always, who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it?
My name is Alexia Pendleton, and I am a kindergarten teacher in Atlantic City, New Jersey. But I also am a mom. I am a dance teacher, a hip hop choreographer, and I also am a hip hop fitness instructor. So I do a lot of things, but all of them center around bringing, elevating people and bringing joy to all those spaces.
So, it seems like those are, like different things. A lot of people get
Uh-huh.
that picture of a teacher, and it's just like this, dodgy old lady who, can't, who don't got moves. And so, what brought you to say, what, I love dancing, but I also love teaching. I want to be a kindergarten teacher. What made you bring all those things together?
Okay, so when I started out, my mom was actually a secretary in the district that I work. So I kind of fell in love with dance. I was a lot older when I started to dance. So that love of dance, I always knew that I wasn't gonna be like, and I was a young mom too. So I had my first son when I was still in college. So I couldn't, do the go to Broadway or go audition for like all the things. So I fell in love with like substitute teaching and I was going to college for psychology and then dance. And I was like, well, how could I do everything and then put it all together? And I found that with like education, bringing something fresh and new and incorporating the arts and the psychology of everything and putting it all into the classroom, I found that that's was something that I could really have my passion and infuse everything together and then give that to the kids.
I love it. I mean, I think that any time you're talking to educators and you hear their why so deeply connected to themselves, I always feel like that's such a beautiful kind of origin story of becoming an educator. Just because, I mean, you never want to hear, oh, well, because we get summer break or like those are never the reasons why we want to hear somebody's wanting to become a teacher. So when the kind of journey is so entrenched in like my personal being and wanting to give to kids is like, it's always such a beautiful thing to hear. So I kind of want to learn a little bit more about like, what have you learned about yourself since becoming a teacher? Because I know I'm closing out on my first year and I have learned quite a bit about myself just in this year. So kind of talk a little bit about how what that journey has been like for you.
Um, it has been an experience for me. I think uh in the classroom, I like to think of my students kind of teach me a lot more about who I am than I teach them. So, I feel like just lessons about why I do what I do or what from my childhood kind of comes with me, how I've been like I could be more vocal in a room full of kids than I could be with adults. So finding like my inner self, trying to be and I focus that in the classroom, like those core skills as a human being, learning about like my confidence and um, why my trying to be like a perfectionist in sort of a way and trying to like have everything like organized. So it taught me a lot about who I am as a person and then trying to bring the best out of who I am in not only how I act at just myself, but how I can bring that to my students and how they kind of help me on my journey as a human being. And I think that's the most. And I've also got a lot of, I guess, because I do things differently and I'm not always doing things like how you're supposed to because I just don't agree with a lot of the things. It's very white centered and just the history and all of those things. So I've also had to learn how to navigate spaces where they're not necessarily for me or for us, for my students, and learning how to deal with educators or people from the top that do say really hurtful or harmful things, learning how to navigate that space has been probably even this year something that's been really really hard to deal with, like the bullying and the different things that happen in the educator space. Finding ways to navigate that has been something I've been learning.
Can you speak a little bit to what you've learned specifically there? Like, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are dealing with the exact same thing, and who could just, and I think in this is one of those areas where like nobody's an expert at it. But
Uh-huh.
what have you kind of done to deal with some of those challenges?
I've been So the first thing is learning how to use my voice. So learning how to speak up when I hear things, learning how to defend myself, and sometimes it could get exhausting, but learning how to speak up for myself, also learning how that maybe not everybody at your building maybe for you or your teachers around you, but there's still community, and just like the Instagram space, like I found a community of educators that we are on the same mission. We're our goals align, and we're driven by the same things. So I would say finding a community that supports you and your goals and your dreams and your vision and your purpose, and then not being afraid to speak up for yourself. And I think it could be not just a personality thing where I've always been very to myself and quiet, learning how to use my voice and be confident in who I am and proud of who I am. So those are the two things that I've been working on.
Just want to give a big shout to Teachergram because I think that gives us
Yes.
all life, man. It's I had used my regular personal Instagram for a while, and then I was just like, I'm not going on this thing anymore. Like I had stopped messing with Instagram, and then I found a large group of educators out there who are just bringing all kind of knowledge and just helping me learn the space, helping me understand what it's going to take to transform education. So yeah, big shout to Teachergram. Eva.
Yes.
Right. And it's not even just like, listen, Teachergram and my tribe at my school are the reasons why I made it through the school year, 100%. Being a first year teacher, full-time grad student, like doing all of the things, it just wasn't humanly possible to do all the things. And, or at least I thought it wasn't, right? And so in thinking about the fact that I really, really felt like I couldn't do it and it wasn't possible for me. Exactly what you said, even when you're in toxic environments or in places where you don't feel like you and your core values align, you find people and you find ways to support your kids even then. And so I feel like for you, an outlet that you very likely have, don't want to speak for you, but is dance and the
Yeah.
ability to teach dance and to connect with people through their bodies. So talk a little bit about like your from your childhood to now, your journey to dance and really what it gave you and what it brought to you. Because I think that's a really, really integral part of this conversation about teaching and learning. Like we can talk about math and talk about science and then forget how much we learn just from our physicality and from connecting to one another on a physical level. So just talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So I guess I can start. I started dance. I was a cheerleader younger. I grew up in a single parent. My mom raised me, and then there's six of us. So she had me at a very young age, and we didn't have a lot of financial stability. So I started dance a lot later than most kids. Like I didn't start with ballet. My best friend, she took me to a class. It was like bring your friend to class one day, and I went and I fell in love with it. And for me, it was my outlet of probably, I would say, freedom. Um, just having a space where if I didn't have the words to say, or if I couldn't communicate my feelings, that was my outlet to just let it all go, let everything that I was feeling, just leave it on the dance floor. And that's kind of where it started. And then in high school, I was getting better at my style is hip hop dance. It's not in the classical. I wish it would have been more geared towards ballet and all of that, because my technique would have been a lot better, but it's so expensive. So I stuck with hip hop, and my high school piece was hip hop, and then I ended up getting hired at a studio when I graduated high school. So taking that with me, and that journey of just using that kind of as my soul care always. Um, and then thinking about, well, when I entered the classroom space, and just culturally, like, how do we learn as a culture? And that stems back to our roots. And when you think of just the beats and the movement, and that was how community and villages gathered and praised together and worshiped together and just loved. And when we think of that foundation, that's ingrained in who we are, from music to dance to movement. And that's how we learn too. And that's how our brain kind of is wired. So when you're moving and you're dancing and that rhythm and those beats, why can't we use that and pair it with learning? So that's kind of where my mind went. And then reading Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain by Zaretta Hammond, pairing those things together and then seeing that culture and all of that and mushing it together into an experience for our students. I think it has done amazing things for my kids. It has done amazing things not just for their learning, but we need some, like, I believe in the classroom, we need some space where we can have freedom, where we can it's not only just about academics for me, it's about building the whole child. And it doesn't necessarily have to be through dance. It could be through different types of movement, but giving our kids that time and that space to be free is important to me.
Mm.
Definitely is. You when you said that you started dancing when you were older. At first, I said to myself, "So you're saying there's still a chance for me?" But
Yes.
I think I might be over. But I wish that in school there was a time to be able to connect, because I always realized that like music moved me, and if I was listening to music, then whatever else I was doing it better than I would have been doing it without the music. And to your point, from a cultural perspective, like it's wired in us, it's in our DNA. So like with your student population, any stories, anecdotes, anything of a student who might have been like knocking down all the blocks and acting up and things to that effect, and then you showed them how to do this, and they and they kind of lit up and turned on.
I would say yes. I think I have that kind of connection with the kids too, because from the minute they walk in my classroom, I have the music blasting and they're like, "What's going on?" And it's not like Kids Bop, like we don't play those games there. So so they already get the vibe from me, and I think because like I'm more involved in a community aspect and their parents know me and um just giving that vibe initially, and they're like, or I'll like do a move and they're like, "Oh." And it's like it's it's just that energy that we just have ingrained in who we are. So I think, and then it'll tap in, especially like because I teach kindergarten. So like especially the boys, sometimes even the girls, like they're busy, and giving them that space to just be moving. And then some of them like we'll have like a dance off, and in the morning, like every day in the morning before the kids even walk in the classroom, like I have the music going if they want to eat breakfast, but if they want to dance, like the middle of the dance floor, they can, and we got the lights going. And it's like I want to bring the club, like that feeling when you're in the club and you're having fun and you're free. Like, why can't that be our classroom? Like, how many kids would be like ready to go if we changed it? Like, I don't know. I just that's what I
No,
do.
No,
But
the thing is
no.
you do know, like that's
Yes.
what you do know. Go ahead, Eva.
No, I mean, I'm sitting here like, what was we doing when we was walking into kindergarten? Not listening to to music. Like you know what I mean? And I think about how different school could have felt for me. And even not just for me, but like I think about my siblings. My sister, if you walk into her room, car, music is on at every minute of every day in her life. Imagine what school would have felt like for her if that was what was happening in the building. And so I don't know, she'd have been dancing now. But she would have caught the vibe. She would have felt seen and heard. And so I mean, I just think that that's so beautiful. And I know so many of your students, they might not know how to articulate it now, but we'll be grateful for having a kindergarten space or an introduction to the DOE, to the K through 12 system being so entrenched in them and what they feel and how they feel. And so like, talk a little bit about how you manage your identity as a kindergarten teacher and as a dance teacher, right? So those, to a lot of people, feel disjointed. Talk a little bit about that connection that you've been able to make between the two and how it's really been able to support your kids.
Okay, so for dance, and I've been thinking about this lately too, and especially not necessarily for the kids, but for the adults. So I teach at like 2 different gyms, and the one gym is like more young, more of a vibe, like a club vibe, and then the other gym is like old white ladies. I have to like that differentiation that I have to do, and how I'll be doing a move, but if I see like, I'm always like looking around the room when I'm teaching dance, and if somebody is not getting it, what I have to like make a decision. What can I do to support them so that they feel comfortable, so that they feel what they're doing, like they don't want to get like, oh, I'm never gonna do this again because I just look a hot mess.
I'm embarrassed, or yeah.
Embarrassed. That's the word. So I think that has really wired my brain to be more mindful of my students and being able to pick up things more quickly. So it may not be the same as dance where it's like steps or movements, but it might be emotionally when I notice, okay, this student is off, or they're not feeling a certain way, or they're not getting the material. What could I do with my instruction? Because not all kids are pencil and paper or visual learners. Some kids need something different. So how can I shift my teaching that way? And that is where I've made the most connection from the two, is being able to quickly like alter what I'm doing and make it better for the student, and then in turn everybody can learn how they learn best. And that has really helped me in the classroom. And I know sometimes you may not think that, but yeah.
No, I definitely see it. I mean, for myself, you're in the classroom and you're standing up there, and sometimes you're like, especially in the beginning, I'm like, I don't know what I am doing right now. And a lot of it was me figuring out, how do I take what I already know how to do and make it work here? So like, I'm really good at making friends. I've always been really good at making friends. People gravitate toward me. I'm a lot, make people laugh. So
she's her father's child.
Here you go. Trying to make everything about him.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is the only, I remember graduation was on Tuesday, and I took a picture and gave a huge hug to one of my, I guess you're not supposed to say favorite students, but one of my favorite students. And the first day of class, she sat in there, and I said, oh, what's your name? And she said, I ain't got time to be talking to you. I said, oh, okay. And like, but exactly what you're saying, like, how do you take something that you already are good at, that you already know, and translate it into something that may be completely different? My ability to make friends in high school, most people don't think, oh, she'd be a great teacher. But I made kids who didn't like nobody like me. So that has some sort of attribute to it. There are some students who the first half of school, I had never seen them smile. Never once. Never saw them smile. Something I did between then and now, because every time they see me, there's a smile, and it's such a cool thing. So I absolutely love kind of what you're saying there. Just as educators, if you're somebody who's in the classroom right now and is like, something's missing, the kids, I'm not connecting with them, or they're not connecting with the curriculum. Think about the things in your life that you're already good at, that you're already passionate about. How do you bring that into the classroom for the kids to really see you for who you are, and how who you are makes you an asset to them?
Yeah, and that's humanizing the whole experience. I think
Yeah.
it's important.
I just was, as you were speaking, the thought came to my mind that I'd be remiss not to, celebrate you on the finishing of your first year of teaching. It has been a journey. I've
This
heard
has been
the
a
ups, the
journey.
downs, the goods, the bads, and I said you're gonna make it through, and you did, and so I'm proud of you, and and to all the teachers out there that have gone through one of what had to be one of the craziest school years ever. Y'all made it, and so salute to each and every one of y'all. Like we truly we where would these kids be without you? We please take some time over the summer to relax, enjoy yourself, and then and so we can get ready to come back to come back next year for the new normal,
Yeah.
because we're not going
You're
back,
not going
like
back to
the
that.
way things
Mm-mm.
were. So definitely get ready for the new normal. Um, where else do we go from here related to dance? Though it is I don't know if this is right to ask. I don't know if we can get the dancer teacher on the podcast and not see some moves. Like it's
I
gonna be on
know you are not
YouTube.
about
Like
to act.
I'm saying, I feel like it's only right. Like
I know you're not
like
going to put her on the spot like
it would
that.
be our
Oh
first time on a
Lord.
podcast.
Look at
You
her
haven't.
face. She said no. Look at that.
I mean, look, it's. I get it. If you were dancing earlier, and you can't, but if we didn't ask, I would later on, I'd be like,
You're crazy.
I second that.
She said, I second that. You're crazy. He's bugging out.
It's okay.
And so this was the interlude. Everybody who's on the podcast, this was the interlude. This was when we had the comedy relief from Jamal Thomas. Thank you. And then we get to go to the next question, where on the podcast where we're supposed to be talking. So I mean, talk a little bit about just your passion, like your passion for dance, what it was like to find that passion. Was it effortless? Was it from the first day you knew? Kind of what did that look like? And just begin to kind of talk about that for just thinking about how you begin to help students find their passion. What does that look like? What does that feel like to really come into something that like this is mine and I get to hold it?
Yeah, I think from an early when I started dance, I knew there was something, because like it was all I could kind of think about and do. Even in class, like when I would daydream, like I would be making up dances in my mind. And then when I got into high school, that was like when, like, what was that show where the Jabberwockies were on it? It was like the dance crew came out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could be in one of those. And
America's Best Dance Crew.
there you go.
Yes. Yes.
So I was like, and then I was like, well, could I choreograph my own dances? Like my ideas, could I put them into movement? Like more than just taking a class, could I do something with it, with my ideas, and put it together? Because during the shows, like, and I wasn't a technical dancer. Like I wasn't flexible. Like I couldn't do all those things, but I always had the emotional, like when people would watch me during our like recitals, they would be like, I could feel something when you were dancing. And that was always the passion for me behind it. And then what I teach my dance students is I want to feel something coming from you. It's not about being the best dancer. It's not about being the most technical dancer. It's about the feeling that you feel and then the feeling that you can bring out of other people. So I think that was the biggest thing for me that brought me like that joy from it, where I was so passionate about it, and then I was able to take my passion and my gift and then gift it to other children. And then eventually my dream was also, well, if I can give this to kids and high schoolers, and I teach like an all boys hip hop, if I could do this for children, how could I give this gift to adults too? So being passionate about dance all around, and just not only it's not only about the movement, but it's also about I guess my self-care, how I can deal with my emotions and my struggles and what I'm going through, the situations, the trauma that has come to my life. Being able to use dance or create a dance that's about something. Um, I know my senior piece was about my best friend. Her mom had cancer, and she ended up passing away our senior year. And that was my senior piece, was about dealing with that and her journey and going.
We can't hear you. Take your time. Now you're muted.
No.
Oh, yeah, you're back.
Can you hear me
Yep.
now? Okay,
Yep,
cool.
there we go.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Uh,
The dance about the
that
piece
senior
for
piece,
your, yep.
yeah. So she was the life of like going from suffering and being in pain and celebrating that life, and then going into heaven, and then kind of us people on earth kind of dealing with those emotions, but then knowing that she was at peace. So like uh just finding ways to deal with our hurt and our pain. Like some people may like to talk about it, some people may need to exercise. Like for me, that's dance, and for everybody else it may be something different, but I know that finding my passion and purpose, it's important even for kindergarten because they're so little, but making sure that I find what their interests are and what their likes are, and then kind of pushing them to be their best selves, and kind of letting them blossom in those areas is important.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the most important parts about it is that they get to see your light, you know, and they get to see the example of what it looks like to be turned on by something, and that energy. Like I tell people the story about like a friend of mine who he was on a photo shoot and he's taking pictures, and when I first walked in, like I'm not saying anything to him, it's just him and the photographer, and he's like smiling, he's like, and, you know, he just looks weird. Like kids can feel that if you're walking around, you know, and you just get inauthentic, you know, you're not happy around them, you're not your best self. As soon as I start talking to him and things to that effect, he starts taking more pictures. But now his life is actually coming out because he's engaging with me, and he's engaging with me in a way that we would do even if the camera wasn't there. And so you get to deliver that same those feelings to these kids, and if you know, I guess even just doing one better, like are there ways to? Because you mentioned kind of talking to them and seeing what their passion is. Do you get them to play that out, each of their passions out in dance somewhere? Like, is there almost a curriculum of sorts that to where it's they're not learning how to dance, but they're learning, you know, more their own thing? I think you do you get where I'm going with the question?
I mean, this
Yeah,
whole part of the
yeah.
conversation, I'm
So
thinking
I
about the
think
movie Soul.
Mm.
This whole part of the conversation, I'm
uh-huh.
thinking about Soul, like the whole time. So talk a little bit about like for your little kindergartners, your little, what, I don't even remember what they called them, but the little cute little things floating up there, them trying to find their thing, their spark. Talk a little bit
That
about
was
how
what
that
it was, the
happens
spark.
in there for you, because I mean, you're doing it. I get them after the world has told them a bunch of stuff. Like you get them fresh. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and that is a little, because I was like, I don't know, kindergarten, like it's exhausting. But I can say that they're fresh, they're not tainted by everything. And frankly, the education system in general telling them they have to be and fit in this certain box and do this certain thing. Like I get them before that kind of happens. Um, but I think the way that and it's multiple ways. Every day, like when we start our day, obviously we have dance infused, and there's some kids that don't like to dance, but sometimes, like after I warm them up, then they might get a little, I might get a little head nod or something from them. But I think using the movement, whether it be dance movements or like exercise movements, of the boys love that. Like, who's got the biggest muscles in the class? So incorporating that movement into them, and in our morning meetings, we have these discussions um, where we can tap into the things that they dream about, the things that they love, and learning about what they love to do. Um, I had one student that she was just like, she was talking about cooking, and her dream was to be a chef in Japan, and like, and that was her goal. And I'm like, girl, yes, like, but if you don't open if you don't build relationships with your students, you're never going to find those things out. And two, it's giving them the space to feel comfortable and feel respected and feel appreciated, that they'll be vulnerable to share those things and ideas with you. And then for me, I can incorporate that into my instruction. Or let's say we're going to study different chefs. We're going to study these things. We're going to write about them, and then kind of nourish that, and then give them the tools that eventually, if you want, what does it look like? What would you do to design your restaurant? Like, giving them those things that will give them a connection that's deeper than just read this book or do this math problem. Like, giving them
Exactly.
that connection to their goals and dreams, to take it with them. And I could only hope that plants a seed in them, and then they would take it with them over time. But yeah, I think giving them that space to be vulnerable, and then have fun and get crunk at the same time.
Yes.
I
Yes.
guess that's the best we're gonna get, but it's good. It's good. It's good.
The moves. That's the best thing. I can't. I can't.
Or
No way.
the TikTok dances. That's like
I
all
was
the
just
rage.
about
The
to
TikTok
say,
dance.
if you can do one of them they
Uh-huh.
like, oh, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not that cool. I'm sorry. It's really bad. Like, I tried, and they were like, you don't
You
even
gotta
know
hit
it.
this
They,
move.
they're like,
You know?
you was like, you pretending like you know it. I was like, you're right. I am pretending. I don't know.
And then you just tell them to teach you. Like, they like to teach you the dance. There you
I
go.
and my school is big on dance. Like, that's what it's very gendered school, but the girls do dance, the boys play basketball, and like it is very much ingrained in everything that the kids love to do. So whenever that kind of becomes a thing or pops out, they're just like going crazy. Because I mean, as soon as kids get the opportunity to start seeing you as human, like fully human, they love it. And so the fact that like we've had this idea in education, don't smile till November, don't tell them about your home life, don't bring any personal, like, just craziness. I'm so grateful that we are starting to see that be peeled back in terms of dominant culture in education. And so, I mean, it just made me kind of think about how I wanted to round out in terms of the conversation. I just kind of wanted to give you the opportunity to talk to educators who are about to walk into the summer, but then walk into the beginning of a new a school year where likely we will be back in school buildings full time, and students will begin to kind of settle into normalcy. But something that we're really big on is creating the new normal. And I would love for you to talk about the passion that you bring into the classroom, the ability for students to learn about their physical selves as well as learn about their psychological selves and what they're passionate about. Just talk a little bit about like what you're I'm on my soapbox right now. What do you want educators to know, whether they're dancers or not, about what they need to be thinking about as it pertains to going in and creating the new normal? Because I think that like some of the stuff that you're doing is extraordinarily innovative and just so helpful to kids. And I think that some educators need to hear that in order to thrive with their students in a way that they may never have before.
Yeah. So I would say the most important is from the jump. And I know, like, don't be afraid. Like, ask for forgiveness later. I guess the thing is, like, a lot of the times admin or other teachers that are like boring, um they'll be like, well, you can't do that, or you can't say that, or you can't have the music playing, or you can't, whatever it is. And I want educators to, like, we have to have, we're the CEOs of our classroom space. Like, you have the freedom to do what's best for you and your kids, and know that you're a family. Like, we don't want no bland chicken or dry, like, it's boring. Like, your kids are bored, they're going to sleep. Like, make it an experience for them. So that means building a relation. Like, if it's your family, you're not just gonna, okay, talk to them about nothing and not build a relationship. Like, that's the core foundation, is getting to know your kids, not just jumping straight into academic, because if the kids don't like you, they know you don't care about them, you can forget about any learning happening. It's not going to happen. And then you're going to be trying to get them to learn from somebody they're just like whatever about, and it's never going to work. So I would say the most important is building that relationship, and finding ways just to have fun and create that joy in your space. Finding time to laugh. Like, everything doesn't have to be so serious. Like, I laughed with my kids. That's how I got, because I did virtual all year. That's how I got through this, is laughing with them, joking around with them. Yeah, there's a time to be serious, but there's also time to just have fun, get to have them share funny stories, have them share their lives with you. Give them the space. Every morning we do community meeting, so giving them the space to talk, and then once the talking happens, then the learning can happen. So relationships first, then I say incorporating things that you are into, you're passionate about, because if you're passionate about your passions, then you can model for them how to be passionate about what they love and they care about. And that will also help you to incorporate and infuse that into your learning, and what you're teaching the kids. And then just, I say, incorporate that music and that movement. If you're not a dancer, then do exercises. If you start the day out, find times to incorporate music. If they're working, plug that music in there. Have a, like, I have a playlist of songs for turn up, and then songs, like, during their working, I play jazz music to get them flowing and moving and get their brains working. So finding time to kind of switch what we've always thought, and it's a white-centered education where they're sitting at a desk. Like, we're not preparing kids for no prisons. Like, in my idea of what school has always been, it's been a prison. Like, my kids are not going to sit there. They're not going to stand in a line and be quiet and do what you say. Like, no, they're going to be revolutionized, and we're going to change what this looks like. And if you come in my classroom, like, at the end of the day, when you do these things and you give your students this space to be free and enjoy learning, and have the relationship, the academics, like, you could look at my data supports it, but you have to take the time to do that first. And I think a
So I
lot of
got the
educators are
receipts.
scared.
I
Period.
got the
I have the
I got the
receipts.
receipts.
receipts, honey.
Period.
I,
Yes.
I
Let's
wish I wish I
look
I
at
wish I had
them.
Rakim's soundboard to do
Period. You better not just say rock. Gets me every time.
Oh
It
man,
gets
man.
me every time.
But I mean, it's what you're saying is just so key, and particularly the things around play. And I hope that anybody who's listening, doesn't hear play and say, "Oh yeah, she teaches kindergarten teachers." No, that is for everybody. That's for you
Everybody.
too. That's adults. Like, it's we learn more. The studies are everywhere, that show that we learn more and better, when we play and when we're entertained, and when we're not sitting there as a captive audience to information that that we don't have any interest in. So, so thank you for that. Go ahead, Eva.
We just can't lie and act. Hi, Chadwick. Hi, sweetheart.
Speaking of play,
We can't lie and act as though, like, there are more people in this country that understand about our founding fathers from watching Hamilton than they ever did in school. right? And that's with music, that's with dance. That is the little girl I babysit knows every single word to every single song in that play, verbatim.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's going to step into US history in 10th grade and be like, yep, I knew that. And I knew that too. Oh, and I know that too. So we don't got to sit here and do this boring year to year thing. Put Hamilton on. Everybody else will know it too. You know what I mean? So it's just so clear. And I just hope that it becomes more and more clear to the people who are allowing those foggy glasses to stay on. Dad, you want to get us out of here for our last question?
Yeah, so last but definitely not least, our last question always turns you into the interviewer. You get the opportunity to ask Eva and I a question, and then after that, we want to make sure everybody fully knows what ways they can support you. Who would you like to reach out to you? So those are the last two steps.
All right. Well, I will ask you, for both of you, what brings you joy? What is something in your space, regardless, what could you say that brings you joy?
You want to go first? How about you try to guess what brings me joy, and I try to guess what brings you joy?
Ooh, okay, we could do that.
All right, you first.
The first thing that came to mind was real shady. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was gonna say alcohol. I really was gonna say alcohol. It was the first thing that came up, and then I was like, maybe I should
out of
say
this one.
But I mean, me, duh. I bring you joy. Time with family, time with your friends. Like, you just like to be around other folks. Chadwick, like you're just a community oriented person. So definitely I would say that. What would you say for me?
For you, paternity court. Right back at you.
No, that was not okay. You cannot have me out here as the founder of Black on Black Education watching paternity court. Like, you can't tell nobody that. Now that's getting edited out. This is what you get when you come on a daddy-daughter podcast. This is what happens. Okay, what would you have said, Dad?
I would have said cooking probably. First, but you said all of the, all of the true things as well. And for you, obviously, Chadwick, but it's similar for you. You have a little bit more of a less of a people person, but when you get around people like that's definitely a part of you.
Deeply like
Yes.
I like to be around
people. Yes. Our niece, just pouring into her, brings joy. You also, you love music and dance. Those are things, but mostly paternity court.
It is. Listen, I'm not even going to explain myself. I get to like what I like, period. But yes, I would have said my doggy. He brings me so much joy. Those of you watching on YouTube, Chadwick, look cute for that. My dog brings me a lot of joy. My siblings, when they're not getting on my nerves, bring me a lot of joy. And my kids, like, I love my students. I love my siblings, my cousins. I'm the oldest cousin of like 25. I'm the oldest sister of 4. Like, I just like being around people, my friends. Like, when I can be around a close-knit group of people who make me happy, there's nothing better than that. Yeah. But I love that question. I feel like it's the first time we've gotten a question that was like truly about us.
Right.
Like, the time it's about the work. So I really appreciate
that. But definitely let people know, where they can find you at, how they can, hook up with you, like what are the, what are the areas where you want people to find you and support.
On all platforms, I'm at The Dancer Teacher, so you can find me there. And if you want to connect, if you want to have like a private dance class or something, I was teaching like free during the pandemic. I taught free fitness classes on Zoom, so I might bring those back a little bit too. I'm teaching at a dance studio, and I teach at 2 gyms outside of teaching. So if you're ever interested in that, I am doing the Teacher Heart Out conference, and my session is based on using of movement and making the most of movement and music in the classroom. I did the Revolutionary Educator Conference as well. So you can find me on a few things, giving some insight and some tips and strategies to kind of revolutionize what you do in your classroom space. And I also have been working a little bit more on developing websites. So that's something that I've been a little bit more passionate about, and working on some different websites. So if you ever are in the search for website creator, I could do that too. So that's
We
it.
love a jack of all trades. We love it.
Absolutely. Jill.
Oh, sorry.
That's how it works.
Anywho, we are getting out of here. Thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed the last 45 minutes and 51 seconds. I hope you did as well. And we'll see y'all next time.
Peace.